Welcome back to another episode of My Jane, My Story, the only show that enables women to share their own secrets and insights to wellness. One story at a time. The one storyteller who seems to collect them all, Kim Kovacs. Hey, Kim.
Hey, Paul. How's it going?
I'm doing good here. This show always fascinates me, the people that you bring in and the stories that they tell here. Who'd you bring with you today?
I got Diane McConahay here with me today.
Well, a good Irishwoman's always a lot. I don't know if she's Irish or if that's her married name, but we always accept Irishmen in there.
Hey, we'll unpack that a little today for you, Paul, just so you get that. We were just swapping some ancestry stories right before the show started, so we always like to kind of find out, where people come from and all that. So before I introduce Diane, just wanted to give everybody a little shout out. Last episode for June. I can't believe June is wrapping up here, so very exciting about that, getting into summer. So this is Kim. I'm the CEO and founder of My Jane, and we are a wellness community. We are an online application for women, basically to kind of find what's good for them, to explore cannabis, to find a routine, to try different products. And we really look at, how cannabis can be incorporated into sort of a daily wellness. And what we do is, we go through, we ask you a lot of questions. We try to get a little bit more information from our members. We curate these products, and then we have them delivered to their house by these wonderful female brand ambassadors who are educated on the products and really understand it. One of the things that really is, I think, very unique for My Jane is that we really pride ourselves on education and really understanding, about the plant and about these different products that we have for different things. And we started this program called the Wellness Concierge program not too long ago, probably just a few months ago. And so Diane is one of our wellness concierges. And so that's why I'm so excited to talk to her today because, I think everyone in this industry will kind of acknowledge that, you get in for personal reasons and you stay because it's so rewarding. And being able to share these stories and really talking to women and kind of opening up the discussion around cannabis. And the more we do it, the less stigma there is and the more we can really help each other. So Diane, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Paul. I'm so honored to be here today. I'm just so excited.
Oh, and it's such a delight. I mean, I get to talk to you at work every once in a while, but now we get to really kind of get to know each other and get a chance to share. So one of the things that I always ask people on the show is just kind of give me a little bit about you. Like, where are you from? Are you from Orange County? Did you grow up here?
I am a Southern California babe.
All right.
I grew up in Corona, California, and I've been in Orange County for 20 plus years. So yeah, I've been here for a little while.
Fantastic. Yeah. Wow, a native.
Yes.
That's hard to find a native Orange Countian. So what did you do before My Jane?
Well, for the last probably 20 plus years, I've been a personal trainer. I had my own personal training studio, yoga studio. So I have been in the health industry for a good part of my life. Mm-hmm. A big part of my love is to support people and to support their health and help them with education and just support on what can we do to make ourselves healthier by just natural methods.
Well, and that's kind of one of the things, too, that we've been really exploring, I think, at My Jane in particular is, health and wellness. I mean, it's very comprehensive. It's not just one thing, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
We look at it and say, well, if I'm getting a good night's sleep and I'm walking the dog a couple times a week, that's maybe my wellness routine.
Right.
But it can really incorporate things like your diet and nutrition and, downtime. I had Miss Kindness on here last week, I think it was, and she was talking about a nap.
Yeah.
That's one of her wellness routines. And we'll kind of get into that sort of, a little bit later on, what it is that you do for yourself, to kind of regenerate. So growing up here in California, Southern California, getting into sort of personal training and having and you said you're a yoga instructor as well,
Yes,
right?
as well.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. A lot of really great, interesting things. So it sounds like you're a helper and a healer.
Yes, absolutely. At heart, for sure.
Yeah. So I know you do have your own personal cannabis journey. I don't know if you want to start with that, and then we can kind of get into some of the things that you do with My Jane, or it's up to you.
All right. Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, I will just say that I'll start out with my cancer journey, actually. I was diagnosed with melanoma almost 2 years ago. July 10th will be my 2-year mark that I got that wonderful call from the doctor, which changed my life forever. And being a California native, melanoma, sun, beach,
Right.
river, that was my love. That was my vacation time. And people always tell me, you're going to get melanoma. And I'm like, nah, I'm fine. I'm fine. Well, here I am today.
Yeah.
And so it was quite a journey. It has been quite a journey since then. I am now cancer-free. So
Wow.
I'm happy to say that. Thank you. It has been a wonderful learning process. Cannabis was one of my biggest healers. And so this is my love. Cannabis, the plant, is just, I can't say enough about it. I have used cannabis for years for medication. No one ever really knew because of the stigma, and I was, I didn't want clients to know. There was so much negative stuff around marijuana. And years ago, in fact, maybe about 10 years ago, I had a few moles removed, and they were benign, and I just was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this doctor stuff anymore. And so I looked into other methods like acupuncture and other ways of healing more naturally. And cannabis was one of those things. So instead of taking medication, like antibiotics or whatever it may be, Benadryl, that stuff would just knock me out. Like I just couldn't function on medication normally. So cannabis became my medication. When I would get sick, I would have an edible, go to bed for a couple days, and wake up and be better and great. And I felt wonderful. So that was
This was
such
prior to the cancer, right?
Yes,
So you were already doing sort of a cannabis routine for yourself.
Absolutely.
And replacing, prescriptions and or over the counter, right? With that. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So cannabis was just a natural thing for me to go to with cancer. It was just, why would I not do that?
Yeah.
And, of course I did other things. I looked into Ayurvedic medicine, which is an Eastern ancient type of healing. And that was a huge part of my healing as well. But cannabis went along with it very well.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever felt so good as I did going through cancer, which is so funny.
It is really, well, and it's a hard thing to talk about anyway. So here you're, not wanting to talk about cannabis, right?
Yeah, right.
And the stigma around that.
Right.
And now on top of that, you have cancer and there's a stigma around that, let's be honest.
Right.
Right? I mean, people just don't know what to say when you say, hey, I have cancer.
Exactly.
Right? And so how did that work for you? I mean, were you going to doctors? Were they helping you and prescribing it, or, shutting you out at the door and saying, don't talk to me anymore? I mean, what was that experience like?
Well, when I was diagnosed in July, it took me a few weeks to wrap my arms around the cancer word, partly because I was so healthy through my life that it was like, you got to be kidding me. I have cancer. My dermatologist at the time, I told her I wanted to do this holistically, and she begged me not to. So she referred me, of course, to oncological surgeons and, all that stuff. And so I did go down that route at first. And my instincts were telling me no. My instincts were telling me this is not going to be right for my body. And so I started looking at more holistic options. Ayurvedic medicine was one. I did find a holistic cancer center here in Irvine that was wonderful. We did all kinds of mushroom supplements, vitamin C IVs, all kinds of different things. When I did go see the oncological surgeon, she basically told me, I suggest that you don't do this. I suggest you don't do nothing. They wanted to do 2 more surgeries. She told me that I would probably have numbness in my hip because that was one of the surgeries they were going to do for the rest of my life. And they were going to do a skin graft. And she said, your body may not take the skin graft. So, okay, yeah, let's do this. I thought, no, that's not, as an athlete, I didn't want that in my life. I wanted to still be whole. I thought, my immune system is fighting the cancer. I didn't want it to be fighting the surgery as well. So I thought, well, I'm going to go this method first, because that's what my gut instinct was telling me. And then we'll see what happens. And here I am today, cancer-free.
There you go.
So,
wow, that's amazing.
and the cannabis part was I met a woman who was very well known in this industry, and she, when I met her and told her that I had melanoma, she grabbed my hands and said, "You need to call me. We will beat this." And so she got me on cannabis, and I mean it was a couple years ago, so it was there still wasn't a lot known, and so I just went with her lead.
Yeah.
And I walked around with cancer brain and stoner brain, mostly.
Really? Yeah.
That's what it felt like, but I didn't feel better than I just never felt better. It
Yeah.
was amazing. And people even told me, you look amazing. You're glowing. And so I can only attribute it to, the cannabis and everything else I was doing to support. So,
And how long did that take until you sort of were retested again and they gave you some results back? I mean, did it take a while for that to sort of to kick in and start working, or did your body react right away, or?
it took a while. When I heard I was cancer free, it was maybe March, and I was diagnosed in July.
Okay.
So, and I didn't have insurance at the time when I was first diagnosed, so that was another challenge. Being a self-employed person, I didn't have insurance, and not doing traditional medicine, I didn't really want insurance at the time. So, once I was able to get insurance and we were able to do the testing,
Okay.
with PET scans, I was cancer free.
Wow.
And they did not believe, my regular doctors did not believe that I could do this.
Well, you know what, Diane? Thank you. I mean, these are why, this is why we're having these conversations, is because, people don't believe it.
Right.
They have a hard time wrapping, their mind around that we can heal ourselves in a different fashion from sort of what we've been told or what we've been conditioned, to take for granted, which is, our traditional medical system. We go
Absolutely.
in and we get, a protocol, and we just sort of follow that and really don't ask a lot of questions. And I think we're kind of at that place now where we really need to start sort of asking questions and even saying, this is how I want to, own my own wellness, right?
Right.
And I want to be in charge of my destiny with my wellness. And I want to, kind of listen to my body and understand what it's telling me, which it sounds like you're very much in tune with that,
Yes.
and I'm probably not. I'm getting there. It takes a while to kind of listen to some of these things, but
You are more than you realize.
yeah, probably so. I am starting to take some yoga classes with
Good.
my daughter on Sunday morning, so that's helping. But so let's talk a little bit about what attracted you to sort of MyJane and this wellness concierge. I mean, it sounds like you are a giver personality, right?
Yes.
But maybe you can tell a little bit about what that means and what you are doing and what you want to aspire to kind of in that role.
Well, Kim, I just have to say, I'm amazed at what you're doing. I just think that there has been a need for this, for the support of women, and not even just women, just support of each other. And going through this journey, I did have people, of course, walk away from me because they didn't believe the way I was handling my cancer, and I was determined. And MyJane. I have been wanting to be with MyJane since like November, and I've been waiting. So, I mean, I'm just so excited to be here to support women and to be here to answer those questions and to educate. I've learned so much about cannabis in these couple of years, and I want to share that knowledge. I mean, I know that there's so many people that have questions and that just don't know, and they're scared, and I want to be that support, and I want to do whatever I can, whether it's just for sleep or headaches or for cancer. And I'm not saying it's the answer for everything. We don't really know all that yet, and there's really no one answer for anything.
Right.
But just getting women and people to listen to their instincts, listen to that inner voice, and to not allow others to, doctors, family members, friends, whoever it is, to tell you this is what you need to do. We know what we need to do.
Right.
We're just afraid to. And I want to be someone's support. If their whole support system is saying, no, you can't do this, I want to be that support for somebody.
Right.
Because I really believe that if that's what you feel is right, that's what we need to do. And so I think that what MyJane is doing is just the greatest thing. And the sleep box is absolutely wonderful, I must say. Everyone needs to get the sleep box, I'm telling you. I've never slept so well.
Isn't it something?
Oh, my
I know.
Yeah.
I ran out of one of the products in there that I kind of rely on that has the CBN in it. And I was up like most of the night last night and tossing and turning. And my husband's like, what is going on? I'm like, I'm out of my CBN. I go, I need this because I've now relied on that. And I literally get like 7.5 hours of sleep. I tell everybody, and I get like REM and I don't set my alarm anymore.
And you wake up feeling like I'm ready to go instead of, oh my gosh, it's another day. I'm so tired. It's that, oh, okay, here we go. Let's do another day.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the things that, we really, like I said, the educational part of My Jane and really getting to know, our members, we call them, because I don't really think of somebody as a customer. I think of them as a member. This is part of this community and sharing, right?
Yeah.
And sort of making this personal. So, sleep, we interviewed, we sent a survey out to like 40,000 women. And the number one thing they came back with was sleep. And we just start to think about like how many times we don't get a good night's sleep and we just kind of chalk it up to, well, that's just the way it is.
Right.
And, I'll just suffer through it. And, just kind of doing more research around sleep and really understanding like how important, a good night's sleep is to our body and to regenerate and to be clear. In fact, there was a study out that said people who are sleep deprived actually are worse drivers on the road as far as accidents are concerned than somebody with an 1.5 or 0.15 alcohol level.
Yeah, that's insane.
Isn't that something? So it's almost like, now what do we do, right?
Yeah,
How do you measure that? And, so it's just, so that's kind of really why we focused in, I think, on sleep as one of our really, key areas, especially for women. So what about your family? So what do they think about all this? Are they on board? Are they supporters? I mean, have you had to have some of those conversations?
I did in the beginning. My husband's been the biggest supporter from the beginning. He's a cannabis lover as well, so it was very natural for us both. He was, cheering me on. And my family's now becoming on board, I think, more, now that they've seen what it's done for me and how much better I feel and just all the wonderful things that it's doing. So I'm grateful for that because I know that can be really challenging with people if if your family, your closest support system isn't agreeing with your choices.
Right.
But I feel fortunate but I have educated them as well.
I was going to say, Michelle coined this, so I'm going to steal it, Michelle, but, I'm a healer, not a dealer.
Right. Absolutely. And that's what I keep saying. It's not a drug.
Yeah.
It's a plant. It's medicine.
Yeah.
So, I definitely have been, and that's partly why I wanted to educate myself. I knew that cannabis was great. I just knew it because I felt it. But once I learned more about what it does, the chemical compounds and, all the benefits of it, then I started, did you know this? And what about that? And so I definitely do let them know. And if something is said that's negative, I'm like, wait a minute.
Right. So outside of My Jane, of course, where else? I mean, how did you get educated? Because it's not an easy thing to find, right?
Right.
There haven't been a lot of published studies. There's not an FDA approval process. You can't look at every university that's done, research and published reports and papers on this. So how did you get educated, especially 10 years ago? I mean, that must have been a little bit challenging to...
Well, I mean, mostly 10 years ago, it was just by how I felt.
Okay.
Over the last few years, I have started reading more, and it's mostly just been the internet, just looking it up. But when I was diagnosed with cancer, the woman that took me under her wing, I call her my cannabis angel, she definitely took me under her wing, and she's very involved in a lot of the educational platforms. And so she just kind of drug me along to a lot of these meetings or whatever they were. And so that's how I learned a lot. But I also did go see Dr. Bonnie Goldstein, who is a cannabis doctor, and she wrote a book, and it's called Cannabis Revealed.
Yeah.
Now, this was a couple years ago, so now more things have come out.
Yeah.
So I read her book, and, I'm like a sponge for this stuff because I'm so passionate about it. So any kind of cannabis event over the last few years that I can get to, I'm there.
Yeah.
And just the panels, and I just think it's so amazing what everyone's doing. And I encourage everyone that I can, go and get educated. Go to some of these events or, these expos or, whatever it is, and, or find a book or just sit at home and Google it. No one will know.
Right.
if you're afraid of somebody knowing that you're looking up cannabis. So.
Google will know. No, just
That's
kidding.
true. Well, that's true.
Don't ask Alexa.
I can't say that.
Just kidding. No, but that's a really great point, because I think, as this industry becomes a little bit more normalized, people are having these discussions around cannabis, we're seeing, different groups and organizations really embracing it. Like I did a talk this morning. I was on a panel at the Pacific Club in Newport and or Irvine. I always kind of mix up which one it is. I'm going to say Newport. And they have not had, series like this, and great questions in the audience, and really talking about not just the business of cannabis, but, where it is, and how about education, and what about the consumer, and where is this going? And, people being able and feeling comfortable to have those conversations. And then of course, when the panel broke and people were just kind of mingling around, that's when those other conversations happen, right? Where they really get personal and people start asking those questions for themselves, their loved ones, just just getting that more education that we can share. Right. Like I said, it's kind of like reminds me of the old fireside chats and, the storytelling of old that we just have kind of lost through, society a little bit.
Yeah.
But cannabis is almost like bringing us back together because we're relying on others in those stories.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if you have a story of anybody you've talked to in specifics, or something that kind of, comes to mind as far as, like a little bit of an aha moment, maybe with a friend of yours or someone that you talked to and they really got turned onto cannabis, I would say, by, interacting with you, or if you've got anything like that, or maybe something funny going into a dispensary.
There's always those funny stories.
There's a lot of those funny stories. Exactly.
That's interesting. That's a good
question. Well, you can think about that one for a minute. I kind of
Yeah.
sprung that one on you. So, like I said, we like to share stories here. So I'll give an interesting story. So, going into dispensary sort of for the first time, I was really reluctant, to talk to anybody. I mean, that was really tough. And, I had this perception, and it was probably my own perception, that they really couldn't relate to me, that they really didn't understand, And I think that too has been changing to some extent, right? And I think with more women, asking for this product, trying this product, and being able to, really embrace this as something that we can use, we're going in now a little bit more educated, And so one of my last dispensary visits, I was like, it was really actually quite fun, because I had an opportunity to really, ask for specific things like CBN, and having a conversation around that. And I felt like I was almost educating some of the bud tenders at that point, So, I mean, I think that that's something that, I think women do naturally, is that once we start to feel comfortable in understanding it, we really start to share it, across, with everybody that we encounter. So,
well,
anyway.
I found that going through the cannabis journey, I blasted all over Facebook that I was on cannabis. I didn't care at that point. I have cancer. I don't care. This is what I'm doing. And so I did find that a lot of people would private message me and I have questions, and I'm not, I'm a teacher, and I really can't, but I really want to know about it. And so the little bit that I knew, I would share everything I could.
Yeah.
And even now, it's funny when I tell people, I work in the cannabis industry, and I get all those funny edible stories, right?
Oh, sure.
Oh yeah, I have it, and they don't want to try it again. And so I really work hard on, you just didn't know what you were taking, and now we know how much we need, or some of it is a trial and error, but it's the same as like, how did you feel the first time you drank alcohol?
That's true. Yeah. Well, let's talk about dosing. I mean, so what are your thoughts about that? Because, some of the products are still, in the 10 milligram range.
Yeah.
I think in our boxes we're like 5 milligrams and below for the most part. So do you have any thoughts around that?
Well, and I think that is, it's so wonderful that everything is 5 milligrams and, that you can start with. What I tell people who are brand new or who are afraid of it is to start with 1 to 2 milligrams of THC. Don't even start with the 5 milligrams because I don't want them to have a negative experience. Because everything will affect everyone different, like you could have 2 glasses of wine and feel fine. I could have a half a glass of wine and just fall on the floor, right? I mean, we don't know.
You know me well. No, I'm kidding.
And then I tell people, wait 2 hours. You get that. Well, I'm not feeling anything. I don't feel anything right away. And it's like, you may not feel anything big. You might just feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
and so I really encourage people, if they're afraid and if they're brand new, start very, very low.
Yeah.
And then you can go from there, and then you can kind of figure out where you need to be to really feel the benefits.
Yeah, that 2 hours is really interesting, right? Especially
Yeah.
with, anything that you're ingesting, because,
Absolutely.
and what I've also heard is that, just depending on like what you've eaten before, kind of
Yes.
like alcohol,
Yes,
right?
right.
That half a glass of wine on an empty stomach sure feels a lot different than,
definitely.
2 glasses after a full meal.
Yeah.
And so that's a really good point. And I think that's part of one of the things that really stands out for me as being a wellness concierge. I mean, they can reach out to you.
Yeah.
If they get their box and they say, oh my gosh, I forgot what, the brand ambassador
Yeah.
said, or, how do I use this? Or do I need to wait 2 hours? Or I've waited 2 hours and
Now what?
now what? I'm not feeling anything. So I think that's just such a great service that you provide, by being there.
Yeah.
Being that person that they can reach out to. Like you said, they may not have a good friend or family member who's supportive of this. And we certainly don't want to, have them go off on this journey sort of by themselves.
Right.
So-
Please, everybody call me. That's why I'm here.
Well, I'll give all that information kind of at the end. So one of the things that I always like to talk about is, what is your wellness sort of routine? So like, what would you do for yourself today as far as, getting in touch with yourself and being well?
It kind of varies. I
Yeah.
think it does depend on, what I have going on for the day, what's going on in my life. But I mean, I always try to do some type of movement every day, whether it's yoga, walking, stretching, something for my body. I do work on breathing exercises, and that's kind of my meditation. And but also cooking. I am a personal chef as well, so
Very nice.
cooking is a big thing for me.
Do you cook with cannabis at all?
I do,
you?
and I love to cook with cannabis.
Oh, well, we should have unpacked that
Yes.
a little. We'll have to have you come back and give us some cooking tips around that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
So,
really-
I mean, that's for me, it's just whatever feels right that day. But those are kind of my key things: is movement, breathing, food, healthy food, of course.
Yeah.
And just kind of playing a little bit and just having some time to do something for me, whatever that might be. If it's 5 minutes, even.
Absolutely.
Just to take some time to just go, okay, this is for me right now, and then I'll get back to doing everything else I need to do for everyone else.
Hey, that's what we're all about here,
Yeah.
owning your wellness and putting yourself first. So
Right.
I just want to say thank you so much, Diane. It's
Oh,
been
thank
great
you.
to talk with you today.
Thank you, Kim.
And for any of you out there with a story, please contact us at mystory@myjane.com. And you can also reach us on our website as well and connect with Diane.
Great.
You've been listening to My Jane, My Story, one story at a time. Right here in Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio.